Hello there, curious minds. Come on in, gather around with me and our quiet little lamb companion here. Settle in, because today I have a truly remarkable story to pass down to you all. We're going to journey far, far back in time to explore an ancient mystery, looking closely at the fascinating research and discoveries of an explorer named Ron Wyatt. I want you to really open your minds to the blowing sands of ancient history today. We are going to explore a time where monumental survival and monumental architecture intertwine in a story you literally won't believe.
Just think about this for a second. How did a terrible famine actually lead to the construction of the world's very first pyramid? It's a profound question, isn't it? Usually, when we think of a famine, we think of destruction and collapse. Yet, in this ancient tale waiting to be unraveled today, a period of devastating starvation was the exact catalyst that sparked the dawn of giant stone monuments. Let's see how these two seemingly opposite events are intricately connected.
The famine and Pharaoh. I want you to close your eyes and imagine the vast, sun-drenched lands of ancient Egypt. The mighty Nile River, which is usually the absolute lifeblood of the nation, has completely failed to bring its vital floods. A devastating famine is creeping across the land, and the ruler of Egypt, the pharaoh, is in desperate need of answers to save his people. Well, our story finds its first major clue on an island just below the first cataract of the Nile River. There, researchers found this ancient inscription called the Famine stele, carved around the 4th century BC. It actually claims to be a copy of a much older document written by Pharaoh Djoser over 1,000 years earlier. The stele tells a story of 7 years of plenty followed by 7 years of famine. It details exactly how Pharaoh Djoser had a dream and consulted his chancellor for help. Now, the priests who inscribed this weren't just writing down a myth. They were using this historical record of land grants made by Djoser during the famine to justify their own property claims over a millennium later. They clearly believed this history was absolute fact.
A wise man named Imhotep.
To face this catastrophic 7-year famine, the pharaoh desperately needed a visionary. And this brings us to a brilliant architect and chancellor named Imhotep. According to Ron Wyatt's historical research, there is a super compelling theory that this legendary figure Imhotep is actually the biblical figure Joseph, the very same man who interpreted the pharaoh's dreams of 7 fat cows and 7 lean cows. So the crucial point here is how perfectly the historical records align. For centuries, Imhotep's legendary achievements in medicine and stone architecture were considered pure myth. Actually, scratch that. People thought he was practically a made-up god, not a real historical person. But then, excavations at Pharaoh Djoser's pyramid complex in Saqqara uncovered the base of a statue bearing Djoser's name right alongside Imhotep's. Imhotep possessed a long list of titles, and one of them was Chief Under the King. Wyatt's research points out that this exact title first appears in Egyptian history right here with Imhotep, and it perfectly matches the unique authority bestowed upon Joseph in the biblical account.
The Great Grain Pits.
Now, if Imhotep, acting as Joseph, foresaw a massive 7-year famine, he would need an unprecedented system to save the nation, right? Wyatt's research takes us to the vast complex at Saqqara, designed by Imhotep himself. This wasn't just a place for the dead. Wyatt theorized it was a bustling, life-saving center of survival during those devastating 7 years. This complex is an absolute marvel of ancient organization. While traditional Egyptologists often view the massive pits here as tombs, Wyatt noted some pretty huge anomalies. See, true tombs were always hidden deep underground and carefully sealed up tight. These pits, however, were wide open and easily accessible from the surface. The complex featured a single narrow entrance, leading into a long covered passageway lined with small cubicles. Wyatt envisioned this whole area as an ingenious grain distribution center. Imagine it, people coming from foreign lands to buy food would line up, pay a cashier sitting in one of those tiny cubicles, receive a token or a sack, and then proceed directly to the grain bins to get their life-saving rations.
The sheer scale of this operation is just staggering. There are 11 massive pits at Saqqara, and the most fascinating part of all, they are connected at the very bottom by deep chutes. Think about how smart that is. If grain was removed from one pit, gravity would allow grain from the other pits to seamlessly flow through the chutes. That means workers could access the entire colossal supply from just one single location. And as a real testament to this theory, when these massive pits were first excavated, archaeologists actually found bits of real ancient grain still sitting inside them.
Building the first pyramid.
This life-saving operation did way more than just feed people. It completely transformed the nation. By selling this desperately needed grain to surrounding nations over the course of 7 years, Egypt amassed unbelievable wealth and prominence. This influx of riches and resources set the exact stage for the creation of an unprecedented stone monument. And this brilliantly illustrates how a society shifts when its basic needs are finally met. During the famine years, the native Egyptians living along the Nile had a guaranteed supply of food. Because they were so well cared for, they didn't have to toil away in the fields. Instead, these incredibly grateful subjects willingly devoted their time to the grand building projects of Pharaoh Djoser. Not as slaves, mind you, but as provided-for citizens. Meanwhile, Jacob's family safely prospered over in the Delta region.
The lifting machines revealed.
With all that wealth secured and a workforce that was deeply grateful, Imhotep designed something the world had literally never seen before, the Step Pyramid. But this brings up one of history's greatest mysteries. It's a puzzle that has fascinated people for generations. How on earth did early civilizations lift these massive, multi-ton stones high up into the sky? Well, the answer, according to the research, lies in a contrivance. A contrivance is simply a fancy word for a mechanical device. Wyatt believed that the ancients possessed brilliant engineering knowledge. He even theorized it might be ancient pre-flood knowledge passed down over generations from the family of Noah. They didn't rely on modern cranes. Instead, they used simple, ingenious wooden lifting mechanisms made entirely of short timbers.
And the best part is, we don't even have to guess about this method. The ancient Greek historian Herodotus perfectly described this exact lifting process in his writings. He recorded that the pyramid was built in steps, or tiers. Once the base was complete, the blocks for the next level were lifted from the ground by these wooden contrivances. The builders would lift a block, transfer it to another machine on the next level up, and simply repeat the process, shifting the stone higher and higher into the air.
Wyatt's research beautifully connects these historical texts directly to hard physical evidence. Right near the pyramids, archaeologists discovered a buried sunboat. After reassembling the boat, they had all these strange wooden pieces left over that just didn't fit anywhere. Wyatt suggested these leftover timbers were actually pieces of these very lifting machines. Furthermore, if we look at the hieroglyphs at the tomb of Unas, we see a specific symbol. It's a mechanical lifting device with a curved lever. You pull the lever down, and the stone lifts up. It perfectly visualizes the exact machine that Herodotus described centuries ago.
The proof is literally written right into the stones themselves. Around the perimeter of the Step Pyramid, physical anchor holes were found carved directly into the base stones. These aren't just random indentations. They are spaced at the exact, precise distances needed to firmly anchor these wooden, multi-lift machines to the monument, allowing them to pull the massive blocks upwards completely safely.
Now you might be wondering, could simple wooden machines really lift giant blocks of limestone and granite? Wyatt commissioned a professional engineering study to find out just how robust this ancient design was. The results were absolutely astounding. The engineers determined that a machine built of wood using this specific lever and winch design was incredibly strong. We're talking capable of lifting loads weighing up to a staggering 500 tons high into the air.
To truly prove this story, Wyatt didn't just stay in the library, he went out and built a working model. In a remarkable demonstration, using just a few sets of these wooden levers, his team successfully lifted a compact car right off the ground. And a compact car is roughly the weight of an average pyramid stone. He even traveled to Egypt and, alongside the Egyptian director of antiquities, demonstrated the tier-by-tier process on the actual steps of a pyramid using large cartons. They showed exactly how stones could be lifted, then slid horizontally using sand and rope winches to the next machine, moving steadily up the pyramid without ever dropping the payload.
A legacy set in stone.
And so, this magnificent story comes full circle. When the 7 years of terrible famine finally ended, Pharaoh Djoser was the wealthiest man on earth, his entire kingdom saved by the brilliant foresight of his chancellor, Imhotep. But the pharaoh didn't just want to hoard all this wealth. He deeply desired to immortalize this incredible era of salvation. He commissioned his chancellor to build a memorial in stone, creating a legacy that would stand against the winds of time for thousands of years. The Step Pyramid isn't just a pile of rocks. It is a profound monument to survival, ingenuity, and a devastating famine conquered by a wise chancellor. It really makes you wonder, my young friends, as you look out at the vast tapestry of history, how much more ancient knowledge is still hidden out there in the sands, just waiting for a curious mind to rediscover it. Keep questioning, keep learning, and never stop seeking out the great stories of our past. Until next time.